Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 37 of the Rovertime podcast. Today we have myself, Stan, Duffer, Crow, and Mr. Sutherland.
Yo.
Hello.
Hey.
How are y'all?
I don't know if you guys realize this, but we're close to 200 subscribers, which is really crazy, actually.
Yeah, and our podcast got lots of dislikes, so thank you for the haters, I guess.
Hey, fuck it.
Yeah, who cares? It's our job anyway.
I'll take it. So, not a whole lot in the news that I've been paying attention to, but I have been paying attention to Steven Crowder and his situation.
Yes.
So you guys heard about that, right?
Yep.
Yes.
He did get his Twitter back, right?
Actually, I thought it was a few days. Let me check now, actually. That's a good question.
I thought I saw that he got it back, but I don't know. I came in on the tail end of things, I think.
I don't know about you guys. I feel like I don't use Twitter as much as most people. I just don't really go on. But let me look.
I never understood how Twitter even took off. I mean, for crying out loud, it's just, you have 280 characters now.
Who knows? These are the mysteries of the universe that we all wish to have answered, but don't for some reason.
Well,
how did goddamn fidget spinners take off? I mean, how did pet rocks take off? It's
Pet rocks took off because people were fucking stupid. That's how they.
there's mysteries in life that will never.
Pet rocks
take off? No idea.
Pet rocks actually make sense. They're basically
Do not defend pet rocks, Crow. Stop being fake news. They don't make fucking sense.
No, what I'm saying is that pet rocks do make sense basically for someone who just wants to basically have a pet, but without the work of a pet, essentially.
So you buy a fucking rock.
Well, but you can walk outside and find a rock. I mean, you could go outside and find one in a tenth of the time.
Well, yeah, you can
4 minutes versus paying shipping and handling and instructions on how to take care of your rock. I mean, just say, you ask how Twitter takes off. How does anything stupid take off?
I just meant having a rock as opposed to the actual.
No, I meant the actual when people were paying for pet rocks.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't make too much sense, but it still makes better sense than many things.
No, it doesn't. If you're paying for a rock, that makes no fucking sense.
I sold a rock to someone once as a kid.
People pay for diamonds, so what's the difference?
People pay for what?
People pay for diamonds. So what's the difference?
And?
What's the difference?
The difference
is I could walk outside and find a rock on the ground, and chances are I'm not going to find a piece of rock.
Diamond the size of your fist, I will take back my statement. But
you can easily get cubic zirconia and it accomplishes the same task.
And
it's a lot cheaper than getting the diamonds.
Yes,
and it does the same exact shit.
On this. But are you okay? So I'm confused. Are you saying
spending thousands of dollars on a ring makes no sense?
Maybe not. It's a gesture.
Well, I agree, but I mean, again, supply. I mean, people want them. People. I mean,
why would we attach so much meaning to something like gold, for that matter? If we're going to go down this road.
Gold has properties that make it unique and useful.
This is true.
But it's not really all that valuable. Gold has to be one of the biggest economic bubbles ever. This is ridiculous.
Here's what I know about gold.
How is it?
It's heavy. It is like the second best conductor of electricity, I think, and it can be stretched. It can be stretched thin to like an atom-thin sheet. So
but it also gets corroded very easily too.
Which is why it's not used in electrical conductors. Actually, I learned this where I work now. That's why
pure gold corrodes very easily. That's why they have to mix it with stuff.
Yeah, that's why it's not a very good conductor in and of itself. I mean, it is a good conductor, but it just doesn't work for long-term use because it just corrodes after the first second. It just starts corroding very easily.
Mind you, if we get back to Twitter, though, you'd have to think. You get to express yourself quickly and frequently, and you get instant feedback on whether or not what you say is popular. That's true. It plays into our inherent sense of self-worth, and it allows you to do things anonymously and quickly in a very large community. So the idea of being able to communicate, even if it's limited, so long as you get people applauding what you do, and so long as you can see that you're part of a larger community is a very addictive thing. You know, Facebook did it, but Twitter took Facebook's model and basically refined it to its purest form, or at least until someone brings it down to like 6 characters, and somehow with emojis you have to figure out what the person's saying.
That's way. Emojis are they're used way more than they need to be, but I think that is like,
oops.
I mean, if you look in the future, I think people are going to be using emojis to pretty much say like whole paragraphs, and it's kind of like,
I can't wait to see somebody try and reenact all of freaking, what the hell, like Hamlet or some kind of Shakespearean play with just emojis, and like it being a serious thing, not just somebody fucking around.
You know what? That I bet you anything that you could think of, someone else has probably already thought of.
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
I think that now that you mention it, someone's probably going to make like remastered versions of like old texts and just like replace as many words as they can with emojis, and like it's going to be a big hit. I'll bet.
I'm just saying, I would pay $1 million to read a frat boy version of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I think that'd be fucking hilarious.
If Michael Knowles can get a New York Times best-selling book that only has 8 words in it, emojis are going to go somewhere.
I hate emojis. You're basically reverting back to hieroglyphics.
I mean, this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing when you say it like that. If it gets the point across really fast, what's the problem, I guess? I just think too much of a good thing, or of a somewhat fun thing, you know? Ooh, what's that right there?
Yeah, but social media lexicon or just accepted acronyms and contractions change so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally the difference between what grade 8s right now text as and grade 5s right now text as is radically different. So you have too much turnover for emojis or social media speak to actually be relevant beyond, let's say, a 1 or 2 year window.
My question is, if you have, so you say you're writing something using mostly emojis, what about custom emojis? I mean, pictures are pretty self-explanatory, but I mean, if you use like an emoji that hasn't had like its own context created yet, like, for example, like the eggplant emoji, like you know what that means. But like if it's the first time you're using it,
the penis.
Yeah, like if it's the first time someone's using it, they're like you won't know. So like there has to be like some kind of like I don't know, like
basically there has to be some kind of baseline that you got to start off with.
Yeah, like emoji library or something.
Well, you could do what they do in China, which in the papers, they actually, on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, they will have a section specifically on characters that are emerging and that you might see more frequently in the language use, just because the pictographic nature of Chinese characters means that you actually have to have context all the time.
Huh.
Yeah, apparently there wasn't very much news today aside from just a couple of ridiculous, exaggerated stories. I'm on NPR right now.
Oh, so news.
I'm just trying to find news to talk about. But basically, after looking at the news for the last week, apparently there was a bomb threat at a festival somewhere in America, and there was also a bridge collapse, and people are just freaking out about both.
I know I heard about the bridge because apparently it was
a bridge.
Well, no, because it was made by a all-female led company, apparently.
Okay.
That's what I heard. I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's just a meme.
Yeah, someone said it was like feminist bridge or something, but I didn't like look into detail on that story.
I remember what it said. This bridge identifies as a crosswalk. That's right. Oh God. I love it. I love when people are assholes.
Getting back to Crowder for a sec, though. So
yes.
He was essentially banned because of a video that who's his assistant who puts the TV on their head? They went to South by Southwest and apparently were moderately annoying. And then all of a sudden he gets banned. So from what Crowder's videos were talking about, the speed at which they were banned, they think is problematic because they assume that Twitter has been waiting for him to make a mistake and therefore jumped on it immediately. But I'm actually curious about this. Do we think this is actually an algorithm thing, or was Twitter actually out to get a negligibly
I feel like Twitter would be out to
channel.
Someone's got to be monitoring it. Like, I don't think it can always go purely by tags. I don't think you're going to ban someone for using tags or descriptions. I mean, it has to be like manual, whether someone reported it or if someone from there is actually watching it. I don't think it's an algorithm thing. Unless they were like on some kind of queue where the next time they get reported, they automatically get banned or something like that. But I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge of how they run it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't honestly know, but I'm hesitant to say that Twitter would be sitting on Crowder's feed that much, just because it's like if it's proven that they are, and they actually take Twitter to court, you'd be like, why are you treating us so differently when there are other channels that do worse? Right. Technically, as a service provider, you're not supposed to gate access to particular people beyond a certain point. So it's like, we use your site, we have adhered to your policy guidelines, therefore you shouldn't have reason to kick us off. But here you kicked us off, yet Al-Qaeda affiliates around the world can still use Twitter. So how does this work in terms of enforcing your own policy? So I'm not sure if Twitter would actually do that, but I wouldn't put it beyond them to actually create an algorithm specifically for channels like Steven Crowder's.
Right, so then it would have to be someone manually tending to that.
Not really. The algorithm, once you pre-program it, it will do what you say, do what you ask it to, so long as the parameters are met.
But then what would that be, like? Certain language in the description of the video?
Yeah, possibly. I know originally Steven Crowder's actually released on his webpage saying, we think what the problem was is that we didn't bleep out offensive words or something in the video. So that's why YouTube came down on us. But I don't know if they actually said anything with regards to the Twitter thing. But I would assume that there are channels which have been put on particular lists and have particular algorithms assigned to them. And it might be metadata. It might be. It also might be audio data. You don't know, depending on whether or not it can actually track links. Because I assume that Crowder would have posted a link to it as well. And according to JFry, it's because Skynet hates Crowder.
See, I don't think though that. I still think it needs some kind of manual input because you're not gonna like. I think on YouTube, I think he always bleeps all the all the curse words, and you can't tell if someone's face should be blurred because like it's just people's faces. Like you don't know what the context is where they would think someone's face should be blurred or not. I mean, like because everyone's face is always on the video. So I mean, I think I would believe that it's especially because he's got he's almost got like 1.6 million subscribers. So
he's come so far.
It's big enough where I think it wouldn't be absurd to say someone's watching it closely.
Probably, I'm in that camp, but I'm someone who I think my nature lends itself to that kind of paranoid, conspiratorial thinking at times. So take my thought on that with a grain of salt. I don't know.
But I do know that anyone, we have such a small following, but if anyone's watching us that hasn't like signed up for the Mug Club, I would suggest actually sign up for the Mug Club because I think it's worth it.
You get roaming, a badass mug.
Roaming is there, so of course you should. If you haven't already, what's wrong with you? But yeah, definitely support Crowder.
When are you going to be designing Roaming's drinking vessel, right? Because she has to get on that too.
Well, it can't be all right. So you don't want to rip off the mug, and you don't want to rip off the tumbler. So
the glass,
martini glass.
Roaming doesn't strike me as a martini person.
A teacup. I don't know.
There you go.
The roaming teacup.
I could. That actually, I think, really would fit her very well.
I think but I would actually. I really do want to now see if I can get her to do that because I could picture her like doing one of those bits where she says something like, "But that's none of my business," but then like delicately sip tea.
Yes.
Right. That would be great. I'm gonna suggest that like right when we're done here.
You should. You know what you'd have to do with that? You'd have to make sure that this mug actually has the Kermit meme on it, so she's memeing while she's memeing. Memeception.
No, it can't be a beer mug. It has to be a beer stein. Has to have the little lid and everything.
Yes. I'm trying to think what other drinking vessels could be used here that'd be perfect.
And when it opens,
why don't you just use
Canadian drink?
Why don't you just use bottles? It makes no sense to have anything otherwise. Just get a plastic bottle.
It's hard to pour things into bottles.
No, it's not.
Okay, would you rather put your coffee in a bottle every morning or like put it in a travel mug?
Well, I just use a bottle for everything.
Okay, but specifically coffee.
Bottle
too.
No. So the real question is,
what are you talking about? I mean,
well,
the radius or the diameter of the opening at the top of your particular bottle there.
2 inches, 2.5 inches, something like that.
Okay, so it's actually fairly large then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, okay.
I think when they were thinking bottle, they were thinking like a beer bottle width is what.
Oh no.
But that's why they were like, how is that easier pouring in unless you've got like a funnel?
No, I mean just one of those sippy bottles.
Sippy bottle.
This is what I got. I got a thermos, and it's got one of those cool caps where you just flip it open there.
Something like that.
This is what I have. This is my Grizzly. It's green. It's green Grizzly.
I like
This
it.
is the most interesting podcast of all time.
I mean, it's a step up from talking about adulting shit. So we have that.
I'm curious to see what the likes dislikes on that one.
I want to say that what's weird though is I don't drink coffee really. I mean, but anyway, all we have at work is like coffee cups with the lids. So when I fill up water, I'm drinking water out of like a sippy cup, and like you expect it to be something else, but it's just plain water, and that throws me off, and that's kind of weird. So maybe I should just start bringing this bottle to work instead.
And maybe I should stop trying to kill this freaking alpha male deathclaw, because I'm pissed. I'm just.
Yeah, so basically, that one has a like to dislike ratio of 39 to 4.
You always focus on the dislikes. Why is that?
No, because I'm just curious as to the like to dislike ratio and what effect roaming has on it. It seems like she has a positive effect on the like to dislike ratio.
Well, yeah. She has a positive, like, fucking thing on everything.
It just goes to show the bandwagoning, I guess. I'm just curious because.
Well, I mean, when someone like her puts out a tweet saying, you know, that she's going to be on something, and with her following, it's going to bring more eyes to the.
Even if the topic isn't very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, she's got, you know, how many.
The fan base.
More than all of us exponentially combined, so it's, you know, it's just going to bring more eyes to the product when she just mentions it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. On her channel-based Bierstein, whenever it opens, it should have an advertisement that comes out. It's like internet security, financial wellness, right? It should be pre-recorded.
That would be pretty awesome. I'm still very much in favor of the Kermit meme mug.
I think that would be more suitable for Jordan Peterson, less so for roaming millennial.
Also, yes, as long as someone is doing this.
You know, I didn't start drinking tea until I got my Louder with Crowder mug. Then I didn't have a mug, and then I had a reason to drink tea, so that's when I started.
Now, do you also subscribe to Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire there, Mark?
You know what? I listen to Ben Shapiro's show on the way home from work in the car every day. So, like, it's after he records it live anyway. So, I don't watch, but I listen every day.
Yeah. No, it's like first off, because I'm living in Canada, I can't really justify spending the money on an American conservative podcasting network. But at the same time, I look at that and I go, well, Ben already releases stuff that I want to see for free. And whenever they do their crossover content, I always find it takes a bit of a dip. So yesterday they did the conversation or whatever, and it was just bad. It wasn't one of their better ones.
Yeah, it started off with them like looking awkwardly at the camera.
Don't you hate when that happens? It's like, hello.
Happens to us all the time.
It's also an angles thing. Like, if you're looking dead on camera or slightly off camera, you're usually okay. But they started from side profile, and very few people look good side profile. And it really didn't do justice to Alicia Krause. Yeah, don't do that.
I
What didn't do justice to her? What?
Because they started her side profile, it just looked odd, and Ben side profile too. It's like, oh, so both of you suffer from exactly what I suffer from, which is a recessed jaw to a certain degree. And it's just like, I never knew that. I didn't need to know that.
This is why we grow beards.
Yes, this is why we grow beards.
So we don't look like fucking Beaker.
I can't grow a beard. Is all I got.
Have you seen the video where Gavin McGinnis shaved off his beard and he was like, I look like fucking Beaker? Like,
oh, he can't complain.
He does look really weird without a
literally
beard.
When he does his brother, that's when he shaves off his beard. So he makes money off that shit.
He does. Oh, God.
And then the other story was Lauren Southern getting detained trying to go to...
Yes, the big one.
Well, not just Lauren. It was Brittany Pettibone.
Brittany Pettibone, and I can't remember the dude's name.
I actually find Brittany Pettibone's more troubling than Lauren Southern, just from a aspect of Lauren Southern has kind of made a career of interjecting herself and being kind of outrageous and trying to push things, whereas I find Brittany to be, aside from her, guilt by association for having done a show with Tara McCarthy, I mean, I find Brittany to be fairly, I almost want to say mild. I mean, Lauren has definitely been out there. I mean, if you think about what she was doing with the ships out in the Mediterranean, and Lauren has definitely interjected herself more. But Brittany being held up in prison for 3 days, to me, is I just think of someone like Roaming, or if they consider if they consider her to be essentially a threat, Blonde has to be on Lauren Southern's level. Roaming would definitely be on Brittany's level. So it's like, the worry I have is where is it going to continue? Who's going to be the next bar that they move back, where it's like, okay, now you're far too offensive. Yet they, we've seen they, let people, jihadists back in and can't seem to track, 500 of them. But, one YouTuber and her boyfriend, they, because they're coming in, essentially legally and doing things the right way, now you're a threat to
national security. Honestly, I
hate something for having a talk and something that might happen, not for things that you have actually done.
I honestly hate the whole concept of national security. It's always just used to justify restrictions on freedoms. You have to give up your guns because national security. You have to get spied on because national security. We have to go to war with Iraq because national security.
Isn't that what?
It's always a fucking excuse. It's used to do stupid shit.
Isn't that like what Trump used to justify the tariffs? He's like, oh, it's a national security thing.
Exactly. Yeah, let's tax ourselves to do this stupid shit because national security. Yeah, really? You can't claim to hate taxes and then claim to love tariffs. This makes no sense.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone that's in support of the tariffs yet. I mean, have you?
Many Americans are economically illiterate and support tariffs because there's this thing called anti-foreign bias. Brian Kaplan talks about it a lot in his book, The Myth of the Rational Voter. This is one of the 4 big biases that occur amongst people who are economically illiterate. And this is the biggest one is perhaps anti-foreign bias, which is basically that stuff that you would never accept being done within your own country, you would accept being done to people outside your country. So, for example, no one would ever support a tax because you purchased something from a grocery store across the street. No one would ever support that. You bought something from the grocery store across the street instead of one on this side of the street. Oh, you bought something from a store on 2nd Avenue instead of 4th Avenue, you piece of shit. How dare you? No one would ever support a tax because you bought something from 4th Avenue and you live on 2nd Avenue. How dare you, you traitor? You piece of garbage. No one would accept that, but for some reason, as soon as you go further out to China, then all of a sudden now a tariff is okay. This makes no sense.
I mean, I just hope there's enough people that are going to talk him out of it. It seems like he's backtracking a little bit. You know, he just needs to backtrack all the way and just let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Just idiotic.
Yeah. Well, it's also something which is somewhat cyclical too. I know I was talking with AAA yesterday about how in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Canada under Wilfrid Laurier was trying to negotiate a reciprocity treaty with the U.S. To reduce protectionist tariffs and things like that, because it would have been mutually beneficial to both nations. But sadly, as they were negotiating that, the first Great Depression, because that terminology gets thrown around a lot, happened, and both sides doubled down on protectionist tariffs, and in doing so, probably quadrupled the prices of things which they both needed. And I think, Crow, you're very much right that when it comes to tariffs, people tend to think of them as being better the further they are removed from what is being taxed or have an import tax levied against it. And so my favorite thing out of this entire thing is that the steel industry is essentially coming out and saying, please, please don't do this because it's really going to mess with our bottom line. And considering Canada is one of the biggest sellers of, I think, aluminum and certain types of steel to the U.S., but we're also one of the biggest purchasers of U.S. steel. We really don't want it either. And I know the beer industry really doesn't want it either as well, because you'll lose access to cheap Canadian aluminum and actually have to jack up the prices for that.
Precisely. And the U.S. produces most of the aluminum and steel it uses. So I just don't understand this crap. And not to mention the fact that 75% of the aluminum in your aluminum can is recycled anyway, because it's cheaper to recycle than to get new bauxite. So it just doesn't make any sense. This guy doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand where aluminum even comes from.
I thought we imported most of our steel.
No, 75% of it is 75% of steel we use is U.S. made steel.
But of the remaining 25%, Canada is the majority importer for the States.
Yeah. Canada's our biggest trading partner because you guys are right there. You know, you're just right above us on the map. So of course you're going to be our biggest trading partner. You're right there. We don't have to cross an ocean to send you stuff and vice versa.
Well, I wish someone would tell our prime minister that, considering he spent 3 weeks in India trying to negotiate with a country that has no interest in Canadian products whatsoever, because gasp, Russia is just north of them, and they have more of what Canada has than Canada has.
Yeah, exactly. Send a letter to your prime minister. Fucking dumbass. America is right here. You don't have to send stuff over the ocean to get stuff here.
Well, that's the tricky part as well, is with NAFTA 2.0 being negotiated, what the president has been doing has been throwing what the people at the negotiating table have been talking about into jeopardy, because all of this stuff has been happening post-negotiations. NAFTA 2.0 has been being negotiated for the past 3 years. And so it leaves us in a really odd position, because we're like, we can all say that this is a good thing, but now you're trying to put things in the NAFTA negotiation that says Canada cannot take the states to basically the arbitrating body, if they start changing tariff rates. And it's like, but the thing is, we have to do that, because if we don't, we can't set pricing on things going across the border. So yeah, I wish Trump wouldn't have gotten on this. And I think Ben Shapiro has had some pretty good critiques of Trump's perspective on what he's doing, because for some reason he thinks that Pittsburgh and the steel belt, Rust Belt of the United States is what it was in the 1950s, when it's been a radically different entity for at least 40 years.
Yep.
Now, did anyone watch Putin's interview recently?
I heard that there was something going on with that, but I haven't. What's up? What is going on with that?
So Putin sat down for a interview with, I think, a BBC4 affiliate, and basically said that the U.S.'s time has come, that it has abused too much of its international credibility, and other countries are going to be going their own way. And it's so petty of the U.S. to say that we're trying to interfere in their election, because of course we're trying to interfere in their election, because of course we're trying to pursue our own interests, kind of thing, right? And talking about how it's not great democracy and how they're alienating the international community. And Putin is a master at deadpan delivery to the camera. The guy was a member of the KGB, and he's basically a de facto ruler for life. And here he is calling out the United States. And the sad thing is, he probably has more supporters in the US than he has back at home. So it's a pretty odd thing to say, but in the news media climate we have now, many American outlets are getting behind it and being like, oh, look at Putin, you know, he's right. How can America have gone so wrong? And it's like, dude, why are you using Putin as your messenger of all people?
Because he's saying something negative about Trump. That's
what did he say? What did he say? What did he say that was so wrong about America exactly?
Now that's the thing there, Crow, is if you interpret it the way he's speaking literally, he's probably not wrong. But the connotations of someone in his position saying it come across as hypocritical.
But
I'll see if I can find the link.
What was the exact quote?
Recent interview. I'll find it there, guys. You can keep talking.
I think it was
just so you guys know, if you could pull up an article.
Megyn Kelly was the interview he did it with, where he was talking about, you know, how we're, you know, America, you know, right now they're crying about interference, but all they ever, you know, rightfully he points out, all American does is, you know, they interfere in other countries' elections. And
well, yeah, I can agree with that point, given the fact that the U.S. invaded some countries claiming to want to spread democracy. You don't get to invade other people's countries and then ever kind of have a moral high ground to criticize others. That's the bottom line.
Well, but the thing with that there, Crow, is neither would Russia have a moral high ground to say that either. But Putin is implying that they do.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. America doesn't exactly have the moral leeway to make that kind of outrage claim, but at the same time, Russia doesn't really have that claim either. Basically, if you work for a government anywhere, you don't have the right to make that claim with any sort of validity.
Especially if you're one of the world's 4 superpowers, kind of thing. But the transcript of the speech is now in the comments there, guys. So if you want to take a look. But yeah, it's just one of those weird instances where it's like, you clearly know the guy has a bias, and you did nothing to critically engage with him. Mind you, I don't think Megyn Kelly has the wherewithal as an interviewer to actually put Putin in any precarious situations. That guy is ridiculously well coached. He has a very nuanced take to all his public appearances. He has manufactured his own brand. In fact, some of the most interesting watching you'll ever get out of him is every year on Christmas, he does a day-long special of him answering people's questions, all pre-selected, but man, that guy just goes through them and is very articulate. And it's like, how can he do that? And it's like, well, that's the teleprompter and other stuff. But he understands how to make himself look good.
I'm screen sharing the article if you see anything in particular. But nah, I don't know what I'm looking for right now. It's
probably too long unless we were to go through it section by section, and it's a long interview. However, it is of note that Putin is picking right now to do this because, of course, he has some sort of political angle to play, and however it gets received, he's got the political capital back home. And he comes off looking like a very astute and understanding politician. And he gives the illusion that Russia is actually an international player and not the sick man of the superpowers.
Yeah.
According to Zola, our good friend of the show, all hail Putin.
Nah. Oh, Zola.
So there's one more thing I did remember from the news that I wanted to bring up. The school walkout. You guys heard about that?
Yes.
Oh, the walkout.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't get in online fights anymore, but I just keep seeing comments on Facebook from other people's posts, and of course, it's just like always. What the left does is they move the goalposts around and they shift the argument to what's most convenient in the moment, and then they try to bring it back to the broad purpose. It's all propaganda, and they bring it all back to what they're trying to do. But in the moment, they're like, "Oh, they're not protesting the Second Amendment; they're just protesting gun violence." Do you support gun violence? And it's like, no, that's of course what you would say. You just try to
the
argument and make.
I find these people to be a bunch of hypocrites, honestly, because here's the thing. Let me explain. If you take a look at, say, Muslims, for instance, whenever someone like me says, Muslim terrorism is less likely to kill you than lightning, so chill the fuck out. They say, oh, that makes sense. But then for some reason, when I also say, oh, by the way, mass shootings are also less likely to kill you than lightning. Oh my God, how dare you ban guns? It makes no
Not only
sense.
that, but haven't there been studies that say mass shootings, which is a kind of bullshit term anyway, since mass is apparently 4 people, but haven't those been going on the decline recently?
Yeah, since the 1990s, things have been going down. But the bottom line is, you can't make any sort of statistical claim because they're so rare to begin with. If you take a look at the number, for example, when people talk about school shootings and how school shootings are so terrible, think of the children. My most annoying phrase in politics. Basically, you have a bunch of people who are saying that we have to think of the children. Okay, how many kids actually die in schools each year from murder? Do you want to take a guess? Over the last 25 years, how many kids do you think die each year in U.S. schools?
I'm going to say each year?
Each year from murder. How many kids do you think are murdered in U.S. schools?
I'm going to say 100.
I'm going to say 80.
The correct answer is 10. 10 on average per year over the last quarter century.
Throughout the whole country.
I was going to say probably less than the amount of students who die each year due to nut allergies at school.
Yes, that's the correct answer. Basically, the bottom line is that there are over 55 million school kids in the U.S. and an average of 10 are murdered per year. So your chances of being murdered in a school are less than 1 in a million, less than 1 in 5 million.
But in the end, it's not even about that, because I think we can all safely say it's more about the Democrats. At least to me, I'm thinking it's more about them just wanting to have fucking control. I don't care. They found the perfect scapegoats. No one, you can't exactly talk shit about these people like David Hogg, like Emma Gonzalez, and come out completely clean in the eyes of the public, because it's like, oh, are you trying to diminish what they went through? Oh, hey. Are you trying to diminish what they've gone through? Or, hey, you're an asshole. These kids went through a shooting. It's like, I don't give a fuck if they went through a shooting. It doesn't matter. They have no bearing on what the fuck I should be allowed to own. Like, okay, hold on. I gotta break out some fucking examples. God. Ugh. Come here. Where's that?
I actually was this weekend, as I mentioned, I was why I'm also very quiet today is I went out of town and visited family, and during this one of my nieces is 17 years old, and we asked her, did your school participate in this protest and stuff, and she's like, yeah, I mean, she's like, some people did, like 25, and she has like a school a class of like 300. And she was actually, kind of annoyed by it, because she's like, yeah, I mean, some of them made signs, and the signs were like about, how this is all a problem of masculinity. So it was like, where she was like even annoyed, she's like, it wasn't even about the shootings or respecting the, the victims. She's like, it was just, it's kind of like what we've seen from, any of these protests, where it's the actual message that they want to say is going to get lost, going to get convoluted, and it's going to be, it's like, there's this one, you see this one sign, Mr. President, the White House is a gun-free zone, but why isn't my school? Okay, first of all, the White House is not a gun-free zone. In fact, it's probably the most gun-filled zone that you could ever come across. So, that's moronic. But, it's infuriating that and like you said, they prop up these kids like, you cannot, they can say whatever they want, but you cannot counter that. I'm sorry.
That
bullshit. If you're going to say bullshit, I'm going to tell you you're saying bullshit. I don't care if you've gone through something. Okay, there's a lot of people also that went through something, and you sure as shit aren't worried about them. And there's
one thing I saw on Twitter today, and it was now this, and they said like, meet our producer so and so. He was a United States Marine and says that we should not have these. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Someone should tell him to read the Constitution and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he made a vow to defend. He made a vow to defend the Constitution, and now he's talking about gun control. Fuck off, man.
Well, Army should shove his fucking leg down his throat.
Yeah. The bottom line is that something bad happening to you does not confer expertise upon your ideas.
Right? I mean, everybody's acting like, oh, hey, AR-15s are so deadly. AR-15s are so crazy. Guess what? They fired this fucking thing. That is not a huge bullet, people. This is what you take down a fucking deer with if you're bored and want to have a challenge. This, if I can get out of the box, is what you take it down a deer with if you want to just get it over with. Look how different this is. Why are they not freaking out about M1As if they're freaked out by the...
That's the one you use when you want to eat.
Mr. Sutherland, was one of those a 303 standard and the other one was a 30-06?
No. This was a 223 Remington, and the bigger one was a 308 Winchester.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. People need to learn about ammunition. They don't really understand it. But basically, the 223 is just a 22 caliber round. It's not really that big, but it's going really fast.
It's got a lot of velocity behind it, but
that's what makes it dangerous.
Yeah.
But the actual round itself is just a 22, so it's not really that big of a deal. Yeah. The 308 Winchester is a lot better. The 30-06 is also a lot better, but the 30-06 is mostly used in bolt-action rifles.
If you want to find an M1 Garand to use it, you're welcome to, but I'll take an M1A any day if I have to take a semi-auto.
Now, he might hate me for using this quote, but in his most recent Netflix special, Ricky Gervais said, the problem which we're facing is that people's feelings are being given equal, if not greater value than facts. And your feeling should not actually outweigh my fact. So you'd be very much on the same line as you there, Crow. But the problem is in terms of getting people on board, appeals to emotion work far better. And I think the real problem behind that is for so long, the left has been quadrupling down on feels and therefore made it unpalatable for most people to quote facts. In order to create a society where facts are important, you actually have to take a deliberate attempt to make sure that people understand that. But that's clearly not what's going on in the world of social media or in the world of news media in general.
And that starts at school. And what's coming to mind right now is when we learn to write essays, for example, rule number one for me has always been don't use the word I. Don't put yourself in the essay. Just use, sources, what they say, and like objective facts. So, yeah, you don't say I think this, or you don't put yourself in the essay.
Then you lose validity. Then it doesn't matter because it's like, well, this is your own color perspective. So who gives a shit?
I haven't been in high school for now 5-6 years. Is that still what people learn, or do they not care anymore? That's just an example of I thought of, but
our society in generally now is just teaching feels over reals. Basically, the bottom line is that if you take a look at the facts, the arguments that they make just fall apart. The number of kids who are murdered in the U.S. in schools is not very significant. So all the smug Europeans who say that America is, I wouldn't want to send my kids to school in America because it's so dangerous.
Well, fuck you then.
That's bullshit. That's just straight up bullshit because the danger is just not there. And secondly, all these spooky weapons, the assault rifles. According to the FBI data, more Americans are murdered with hands and feet than all rifles combined.
Given the South by Southwest thing that Steven Crowder did this week, I went back and watched his last year crashing the Cenk Uyghur speech. So when you say bullshit now, I keep thinking of Steven Crowder's
bullshit.
Right.
It's too bad that Cenk isn't in the comments right now.
What about the comments?
It's too bad Cenk isn't in the comments.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, what are you fired at 308 out of?
What do I fire out of? Nothing yet.
Okay, what are you gonna get to fire with?
I want to get an M1A to fire it out of, because if AR-15s are so fucking deadly, I'd rather have something that's apparently totally cool with everybody else.
People need to know what semi-automatic means.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know what the term means. It makes no sense.
I like the thing that Dianne Feinstein said a couple weeks back, where it was like, nobody needs a 100-round drum for self-defense. I would be like, you don't fucking know my life. Maybe I live in the ghetto and shit gets really weird.
Who cares anyway? If you want a 100-round drum, that's more likely to jam than a 30-round magazine.
Exactly.
Yeah, so who cares? If anything, you're safer.
Yeah.
I would much rather someone have to reload a few magazines than to use a 100-round. Someone use a 100-round drum to reload a few magazines, because the magazines are more reliable than a drum.
I don't think that people have the rights to keyboards, because keyboards didn't exist when the First Amendment was written. And you know what? Actually, on a serious note, I think I haven't fully thought this through yet, but I think it might be a good idea if all legislation had to be handwritten.
I'm totally down with this.
I would be down with that, because no one would write a 1,000-page bill handwritten.
Right?
Exactly. No one would, and no one should.
Hey, guys, how close do you think we are to getting to something like that, where we're gonna have to handwrite everything again?
You know what? Someone should put through a petition. All laws now must be handwritten by people elected to pass said laws, not just someone that has all the time and they can just hire them to themselves, should write the bills themselves.
And there should be a stipulation that when you start writing the law, you can only use the pen that you started doing it with. At the point that it runs out of ink, the law is finished.
I'm for it. Let's start a petition, dude. That would be funny.
That would be beautiful, actually.
Can we run our can we all like coalesce and try to make some kind of presidential campaign and then operate under that? Be like, if elected, we will make sure every law is written by hand, so no stupid laws.
Yeah, you can make a stupid law short. Basically, I just don't believe in the concept of law, really. And
we know you don't.
Yeah, I know, but the viewers probably don't.
Crows and ANCAP. Everybody who doesn't know that, now you know.
Yeah, but basically,
we have diversity of thought here.
We do.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Most Americans disobey a lot of laws. I mean, have you ever read the book 3 Felonies a Day by Harvey Silverglate?
No, but it sounds fucking hilarious.
What are the 3 felonies? I have to ask.
Well, you basically there are different kind of felonies that Americans commit, but a lot of them are copyright violations. Then, of course, you have drug violations. Most Americans use illegal drugs, by the way. So it turns out that most Americans have used illegal drugs. Most Americans violate copyright law, and the sentencing for pirating, if you're caught doing it, could be up to 5 years in prison. So most Americans are criminals. Also, most Americans are also guilty.
I'm down with this. I'm okay with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, also, most Americans are guilty of aiding and abetting an illegal immigrant, because most Americans have met an illegal immigrant but haven't ratted them out. So they are technically guilty underneath law of federal immigration laws, because they're guilty of aiding and abetting illegal immigration. So there you go. By not ratting out an illegal immigrant, you are a criminal who is thereby aiding and abetting someone who is breaking the law. So you are now afoul of the law, and you can go to prison. So basically, everyone's a criminal, and so that's why I don't respect the law.
America, fuck yeah! Everybody belongs in a prison.
Yeah, so this is why I can't take Californians seriously.
Oh, fucking A. Tell me about it, man.
Yeah, exactly. You violate immigration laws every day, but we can't violate gun laws.
Technically, I don't. Jerry Brown does.
Well, but Californians elected him. So basically, the bottom line is that the state
not good Californians. Let me tell you. Oy.
Yeah. Basically, the bottom line is that you violate immigration laws all the time, and I'm fine with that. But the bottom line is you can't criticize people for violating gun laws then. All right, is that a fair trade?
Yeah.
I think it's a fair trade. No gun laws and also no immigration laws. Everyone's happy.
I just...
J-Fry, that's what Muslims do.
Nah.
What's what Muslims do?
Beat people with shoes.
Why would we want to beat people with shoes? That makes no sense.
Don't worry
Don't
about
read the
it.
comments, Crow. Don't read the comments.
Just go with it, dude.
Okay. Well, beat people with shoes. Because that's the most effective weaponry you can possibly find.
Hey, I mean, if you started beating me to death with a cleat, I'd feel like I was dying. You're like, ah!
A track cleat.
A track cleat.
We could just beat you to death with, I don't know, knife.
You're gonna beat me to death with a knife, not stab me with a knife, but beat me to death with a knife.
If you got beat to death with a cleat, I would.
Hey. What's the difference? What's the difference aside from the precision of the point of impact? That's basically the only difference.
I feel like I'd rather die of just straight up getting stabbed once in a good spot and then bleeding out, but I've never been beaten to death with a knife, and I don't plan on changing this about myself.
Yeah, so basically the thing is, either way you're getting beaten. The only difference is the fineness of the point.
I suppose you're right.
So, hey, scientifically speaking, it is accurate. You are getting beaten to death just with a very fine point.
Yeah. I'm just... Boy.
Huh.
The world is crazy and stupid, and I don't know how to handle it all the time.
You know what I just learned?
What'd you just learn?
Apparently, the adult literacy rate in Massachusetts was higher in 1850 than it was in 2003.
That sounds right.
So much for schools. So yeah, basically schools are a waste of money. Yeah.
You know what?
Now, seeing as yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, how about we end with some beer recommendations?
I don't drink, so I don't know, but because I'm like 20 minutes away from the brewery, I would say Sierra Nevada. Because everyone I know, like, maybe it's just a local thing. I don't know how far spread it is across the country, but I know a lot of people love Sierra Nevada, especially like the Pale Ale or like the Torpedo. I think there's a couple IPAs. I can't remember. The only one I know of that people don't like that I've heard of actively is the Otra Vez. It's like a ghost of some kind.
Mister, how old are you?
Who's Mister?
That's all that
Mr.
shows up
Sutherland.
on. It's Mr. Sutherland. All that shows up on his face when he starts speaking. It says Mister.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be 24.
Yeah, I like that you don't drink. I don't drink either, even though I'm half Irish. I'm half Irish, and my mom's birthday's on St. Patrick's Day, and I don't drink.
What the hell? That is peak Irishness.
Yeah.
I don't drink either. Yeah, we're a bunch of sober people here.
So you wouldn't know, even if you knew me, you wouldn't know because my last name is Polish. So like I'm half Irish, half Polish, but you can't tell if I'm drunk or just stupid. But since I told you, I don't drink, it's just the other one. I'm just stupid.
Oh dear Lord. Okay, as someone who has Irish descent, I will throw some ones out there.
Oh, Duffer, really?
Yeah. So, for the people who like darker beers, I would highly recommend Cobblestone Stout from Mill Street Brewing, Toronto. I would also totally recommend Blackberry Thornless Porter from, I think it's Kelowna Breweries. And if anyone's into sours, a really good one to check out is Spica Sour Porter with Cherries.
Well,
how about you, Stan? Any recommendations?
I don't drink.
Ooh, that makes 3 of us.
That makes 5. That makes 4.
Sorry. Yeah, I maybe will partake of three alcoholic drinks a year with some dinners, and they are generally frou-frou drinks. So yeah, no, I hate beer. I think it's repulsive.
The most I ever delved into alcohol, I actually still have it because on my 21st birthday, my stepbrother's mother-in-law decided to give me a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I'm like, okay, I'll cut this with a little bit of lemonade, and I'll just work from there. I still have the fucking bottle because I don't drink. It's maybe like halfway gone after 3 years. Just don't drink.
You have a stepbrother? Is it like a Drake and Josh type situation you got there?
I can't say no. I would not say Drake and Josh.
A lot of Americans don't really drink very much at all. I can't.
That's surprising, actually.
There's that, yeah, because here's the thing: 30% of Americans don't actually drink alcohol at all.
Is that true?
Yeah.
30%, really?
Yeah.
Where are they? Those are my people.
Nah.
Given the fact that
probably most of Utah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, given the fact that we have a few people here, and 4 of the 5 of us barely drink or don't drink at all, and 3 out of the 5 don't drink, it's not really surprising. Given the fact that if you just take a look around, you'll find that plenty of people just don't want to drink alcohol at all.
I mean, with how things are going in this fucking country, wherever you stand, it's like, you know what? Maybe it's a good way to take the edge off. Someone pass me the whiskey.
Hell, even Donald Trump doesn't drink.
Well, that...
No, he doesn't.
I think he had a brother that died of alcoholism.
Yeah, he's been very all his life. He's made he's told the story of his brother and the fact of why he doesn't drink or do drugs.
Yep.
Wow. So technically, Crow, you have to remove me from those calculations because here in Canada, roughly 80% of us drink. Apparently, only 15% of us have replied as saying we're complete teetotalers. But it's like, for me personally, I like just to try a variety of beers. I've never really been one for drinking any of the general craft beers or drinking to excess. But it's nice to try a bunch of different things, different flavor profiles, different textures, and also different types of beer. But we're still nowhere close to Germany, or at least we're not that far away from Germany, where something like 88% of people drink.
Do you have a favorite type of beer that you've tried over the years?
I go by the rule that I've never had a best beer, but I've actually had many good beers. I tend towards the darker stuff. Right now, I really like sours. Sours have been a neat thing because they sort of mix the flavor profile of a cider, but also have the texture of a beer.
Okay.
But darker stuff, porters, stouts, absolutely. Couple scotched beers, which are beers with hard liquor in them. But yeah, I don't have a favorite beer. But for St. Paddy's Day, of course, there's only Guinness.
Dude, all right. So Matt Christiansen's in the chat right now.
Hey, Matt.
And I always said if ever I hang out in Montana, go snowboarding or whatever, I would have a beer with
Coors Light.
Oh, Matt is
dude.
Matt Silver Bullet.
That's not beer. That's water with flavoring in it.
Matt, you may have called yourself out for fake news, but I can't forgive you for saying Coors Light is.
Have you guys never watched his show? He is all Silver Bullet. Especially because he, when Bud Light went all SJW with Seth Rogen and Amy Schumer, with the age gap and all that bullshit. So yeah, no, Matt is Silver Bullet through and through.
Now, the question I have for Matt then is he drinking for refreshment? Because Coors is a beer which you kind of have to drink cold. You can't do it as a cool beer as opposed to a cold beer. So you don't actually go for the flavor profile. Generally, you go for refreshment. So it's kind of like a Corona in that way. But I've never been big into beers that have to be cold to drink because I find that they're hiding bad flavor rather than increasing good flavors.
I believe he drinks it for refreshment because he generally will have them during his show. So, but
we shall have to get Matt to try a slightly more diverse range of beers.
And I'm sorry, but warm. I realize I'm not the greatest, but warm beer just sounds disgusting, frankly.
Okay. All right. Any last thoughts there, guys? We're coming up on the hour.
Okay, and by the way, Duffer, Matt has requested you stop this snobbery and stop hammering on his chosen beer, and again, stop the snobbery.
Oh, I did. I transitioned, right? I said,
Yes.
we're coming into the end of the hour. I'm very respectful of Matt's thoughts. I really appreciate his shows.
Even if he's wrong, that's fine.
Hey, you said
you don't drink, Mr. Sutherland, so
I will partake here and there, but I know Coors Light is fucking trash.
tell that to their stockholders.
I will say that Stan's last
because
point.
no one's ever bought a shitty product.
To be fair, I think anything
by millions and millions of dollars worth. Shitty. Sure.
To be fair to Stan's last point, I think anything warm is probably disgusting, except for like hot chocolate or something.
Yeah, hot beverages. Yeah,
you mean warm chocolate?
Warm. Okay. All right. Oh,
Mr. Wazz, put an end to this madness.
All right, cool. I got some chocolate coins here. I'm gonna go enjoy my wealth. I got a few of them. Okay,
all right.
Enjoy. All right. Tune in.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Watch Beauty and the Beta next with Matt Christiansen and Blonde. So see you next week.
You guys drink Coors. I'm not gonna stop. I'm sorry.